Hello, everyone, and welcome to You're on Fire, a Pokemon Unite podcast. Hi, I'm Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yee-haw, and I am joined by two of the greatest gentlemen in the world, the incredible You're on Fire co-hosts. Say hi, Lush.
Hey guys, how we going?
And of course, hello, Crashy.
Hello, happy to be here. Really excited we're getting this thing kicked off, and I don't know. We have a great cast. I'll say that much. I'm really happy to be with the two of y'all.
I'm so happy to be with you two as well. I'm also happy to be recording our first episode again. We have recorded this episode. We recorded it 5 days ago or so, and we had some technical issues, but I'm actually excited to have this episode coming out right now because I think there's so much more to talk about given that we just had a new Pokemon released. We had some massive balance changes. We've had the announcement of Worlds. We've had this massive shiny tournament. So there's a lot to get to in this first episode. Before we do, I think it would be a good idea to let everyone know, in case you're unfamiliar with us, who we are, how we came to Unite. So we'll hop into that really quick. Again, my name's Jake. I've played MOBAs for a long time. Pokemon as well. This just felt like sort of a perfect combination for me. And I make a ton of videos on YouTube. How about you, Lush?
My name's Lush. I am from Australia. I played Pokemon my entire life. I used to play ranked in the VGC world, and that was a lot of fun. And then when this game came out, it was just a no-brainer for me to jump in. And I also make some content on YouTube, so definitely come check it out.
Nice.
And Crashy, of course.
Yeah. So my name's Crashy. I've been doing gaming content since I was like 13. Well, really like 15, but I started playing competitive gaming and going to LAN events when I was like 13. Been big on MOBAs, shooters. Played a ton of League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm. I went professional in an old MOBA, rest in peace, Infinite Crisis. It was a DC Comics MOBA. I was like well known for playing Doomsday Jungle, and it was so fun. Such a good time back then. But I remember seeing the announcement for Pokemon Unite, and I thought like, wow, that game looks like, that looks really cool. Like, it's Pokemon. Like, who doesn't know Pokemon? Never really been a huge Pokemon fan, but Pokemon Unite, like the evolutions, when you level up, I was like, it's a MOBA. It's going to be cool. Jumped on it, bought a capture card, bought a Switch after playing the beta, and I said, you know what? Let's make some content for this game. And it's been a really good payoff so far. So just a really, really fun game. Really happy to be a part of this game and this community.
Absolutely. Same. I thought the announcement for Unite seemed so cool. I know some people were down on it at first, but obviously they have made a really amazing game here. We did it. We let people know who we were. I think we should talk about this tree. Trevenant was just released in Pokemon Unite a few days ago now, as well as a pretty huge balance change. I feel like anytime multiple Pokemon get messed with, items get messed with, there's a ton going on. Let's start with Trevenant. I know it's been, I think probably the most hated release of any Pokemon that's come to this game. I'm wondering if it's just because everyone understands the game so much more now. Like maybe Mamoswine or Gardevoir, when they were released, would have gotten a little more hate. But boy, Trevenant seems to be sort of widely panned across the board. Crashy, what do you think of this tree and maybe some of the reception it's gotten?
Yeah, so I came out pretty hot and heavy, and I always do, and I think over-exaggerations or even just saying things early is, like, it's fine. I said, oh man, maybe the worst Pokemon in the game. I don't really feel that way. I do think it's definitely on the bottom side, though. It just feels very underwhelming for a defender. Like, anything that this tree wants to do, another defender will do better. Except for recovering itself, but that's not, that's kind of just the niche of the character. I feel like that's just kind of like the way they did this character's tankiness. And ultimately, the irony is that, in my opinion, I know Lucia's going to say the same thing because we've talked about it, it's like numbers changes. Like, this character is so close to incredible, and it's really fun, by the way. I think it's got a super cool feel to it, but there's some clunkiness in there. There's some not so great efficacy in there. It just doesn't feel like it heals enough or is tanky enough or has enough cooldowns or whatever however you want to look at it. But Tree, not very good. Trevenant, not very good. The early game, oh my gosh, I'll just let y'all talk about it. Go on ahead and take it away, Lush.
Yeah, so they gave it Ghastly's early game, which I don't quite understand because, as we know, Ghastly has the worst early game in the entire game. But I think Crash said it perfectly. Trevenant is just underwhelming. The character's not bad, but it just doesn't do anything better than anybody else. It does have that really cool tech of the Hornleech, Curse Hornleech, that's a really, really fun way to play. And the Unite has some potential. I just think, yeah, I think we need some numbers changes to see it to be played over something like Wigglytuff or Slowbro or even Snorlax.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something that you guys both touched on a little bit. That early game is brutal. And being in lane with Trevenant, unless you are a lane monster, you have such a hard time in lane. Now imagine that you're in one of those situations where you're, I don't know, Greninja or Cinderace or something like that. Someone's decided to steal your jungle. So now you're running into lane and you're running in there with Trevenant. It is just, I mean, you are getting stomped the entire laning phase of that game with that Pokemon. I think that's one of Trevenant's biggest weaknesses is maybe it just needs to evolve at 4 or something like that. Like get it out of that Phantom stage really, really early. Both of you talking about changing its numbers a little bit. It reminds me of the Chris Heroes tweet that always makes me laugh about Trevenant. And I have it right here. Good. It's Trevenant is pretty fantastic. He just needs more self-healing, take less damage, more CC, longer CC, more damage, less charge-ups, more health, more defense, more special defense, and lower cooldowns. And it's so silly, but it's I know what he's saying is this Pokemon is super underwhelming, but also he's so right, because if they do tune this all up just a little bit, it all of a sudden is a really, really legitimate sort of brawly tank type defender. I guess my biggest issue with it is, as you said earlier, Crashy, someone else does almost everything in its kit a little bit better. And if you're running Trevenant, you kind of need another tank on the team, because this is not what you would expect from a tank character.
Yeah, it definitely just like doesn't quite hit the mark for a tank. It feels very fighty. Which is great. You know, we have other tanks like that. I mean, Greedent's not a tank, right? Like Greedent's not a traditional tank. It's a defender, but it's not a tank. But it doesn't even fit that fighty role really well. Now, the Unite move, dude, it has crazy potential. And I think that Trevenant, like, it's a good design. And I think that that's better than anything, because it's got strong bones, right? It's got strong bark. The bark is strong. And I think it's fine, right? It's iterative. This is iteration 1. Maybe they were maybe they were tired of the rhetoric of, oh, they always release new Pokemon super broken and they just want to make a bunch of sales. I respect that, right? Like I respect that, wanting to combat that rhetoric, and give it time, let them iterate, let them get some feedback, and we'll be brawling it out with a tree. And like I said, I have fun when I play it. I still play it. It's just,
it is fun.
You know, it's a little troll.
Yeah. That's one of the things I think it does matter, is how fun a Pokemon is to play. I think they do a really good job of always releasing characters that are at least fun to play. And I find Trevenant to be very, very fun. But it does feel like you're kind of disappointing your team with that role a little bit. You know, it reminds me, not as intensely, but it reminds me of where Garchomp's been in this game for so long, which is you're not horrible. You're just taking the spot of someone else who might be able to do a lot of what you do better. And I guess I would like to start talking about balance with you guys. Speaking of Garchomp, now that we have this big patch here, I feel like we could spend a lot of time on this patch, but they changed a ton of things. Slow Smoke is now an incredible item. Garchomp seems to be, catapulting itself into viability. Gengar got a bit of a rework. Where would you guys like to start with this, Crashy? What do you think's the most interesting thing about this balance patch for you?
Yeah, you nailed it for me. I want to talk about Garchomp. I think Garchomp has just been the meme of Unite, right? Like Japanese meta or Japanese patch beta. That's the word I'm looking for. Super strong, ridiculously strong. Comes out on live, felt good, has been power crept every step of the way, and buff after buff, like it's just not enough. And finally, we have a little bit of light for Garchomp. The irony, I still don't think it's like the top highest of tier. I think the roles that it fills are like a potential, and this is 5-stack meta, especially North American 5-stack meta. The solo lane, it's pretty decent. I've seen it played. Potato Uwu is an insane player, right? Like he can make it work no matter what. But I've seen him play it in the solo lane meta, pretty good. Jungle, I think it feels really solid. That said, I don't think it's the best jungler in the world right now. I don't think it's the highest jungle pick. But the things that it can do and what it does well feel really strong, and they just gave it more of that potential to do that. Like, one thing that Garchomp brings to the table that has always been a really good benefit is the push potential with like Dragon Rush, the Dragon Claw, Dragon Combo, and controlling the bees, controlling the Rotom. And now you can actually have that without trolling, and that's really fun. And the team fight potential. The Unite move has always been one of the... I've always thought that Dragonite or Garchomp's Unite move has been one of the stronger Unite moves in the game. It is just massive potential for team fights. You see this character get ramped up, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. I agree. So I think Garchomp is in a way better spot than it used to be. The only issue with it at the moment is you want to play it in the top lane. It's where you really want to put it. But they also buffed another top laner, which was a decision that they made. So I think Garchomp, it's got really good team fight. It's got really good team fight. It has the ability to push an entire team into one spot. The Unite, as you said, Crashy, is incredible. You can do so much burst. You can completely zone a carry out of the fight. They have to run away. They cannot deal with you. And it's nice to see Garchomp be a threat.
Yeah, I think that is really cool. It's cool to have a pick in the game that for the longest time I felt like when I saw Garchomp picked on my team, I would go, man, we're kind of already behind in this game, because unless the player was one of those amazing, like Potato or Phil or something like that, someone who really rocks it with Garchomp, you're in a lot of trouble. Now, I think it's actually at least a legit pick. All of its moves have kind of been changed in an interesting way. I have some of the notes right here. Dig has this really crazy knockup at Dig Plus. It's kind of hilarious watching it. You get defense and special defense when you land a dig of plus 350, which is massive. Earthquake slows now. I think the upgraded Earthquake slows near the center more or something like that. Dragon Rush, you have reduced damage when it's active. It's unstoppable when it upgrades. Dragon Claw slows. I mean, there's just so much that was changed with Garchomp. It feels like maybe this is finally all those quality of life adjustments that it needed to bring it up from the bottom tiers of the game, which is so cool because it's probably one of the Pokemon that people are most excited to play. Whenever I'm streaming or anything like that, I get asked about Garchomp constantly. I think everyone wants it to be good, and it finally might kind of be there, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, I do want to talk about another... Oh, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, it definitely does feel way better, and it doesn't feel troll. Unfortunately, there is a few characters that even with buffs still do feel a little bit troll. Maybe you could segue us into one of those. You can take your pick. I don't know. I think there's like a couple.
Well, okay. There are a few that are still just really low tier, I think. I still think, and I think it's way better, but I'll start with this. I still think Decidueye is in a pretty rough spot, and it's just because of how the game works. It's not that they're not giving it a lot of opportunities. All of its moves are better. I like them a lot more. Spirit Shackle, you have multiple arrows in your quiver now, which is really cool. Razor Leaf is a little bit stronger, which is awesome. And then you've got Leaf Storm, which actually has a pretty legitimate knockback now. It actually feels like it's doing what it was supposed to do. I don't know. I still feel like Decidueye is probably the worst pick when it comes to your 80 carries, and you kind of have to compare it to that. I don't know, maybe if you want to compare it to something like a Pikachu, you could, but then you lose a ton of CC. I just think Decidueye is still in a pretty rough spot right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Decidueye it's so squishy, right? Like it gets obliterated by anything, and the lack of mobility. I mean, Leaf Storm was a great change. That feels a lot better now. But I think the problem with Spirit Shackle is that even though you have multiple shots now, it takes so long to wind up that move and actually shoot it off that I just don't think it's that usable. And I think the Unite needs a lot of love too.
Yeah, that Unite, man, is just one of the roughest in the game. It felt like it could be crazy overpowered, but it's not. A tank can kind of stand in front of it, and you're not able to take an objective with it. It doesn't do that much damage. You're either too far from the fight to really affect the fight in a meaningful way, or you're too close and people are just going to walk up to you and KO you. What do you think about Decidueye, Crashy?
I would like to see a couple things. I mean, I definitely agree with y'all. I think that the character struggles. They're filling or trying to fill a very niche design, and I respect the hell out of it. And what they're going for is this Omega Glass Cannon shredding monster or far in the back sniping monster, right? I get it. A couple of things. Spirit Shackle, undeniably way, way better, but I agree. I think the windup is too long. Like, you're losing so much damage time just doing the windup, and I'm not going to lie, even with 3 charges, I think the cooldown might be too long still. Like, I'll use my snipe, and then I'm just like, okay, well, now I have to step in. Like, I don't want to go over there. Like, that's not where I want to be. So maybe pull that cooldown down a second, maybe 2 seconds for the recharge or something, maybe give it a slightly faster windup. But even on the other side of things, Leaf Storm, is that the name of it? Yeah, Leaf Storm and Shadow Sneak, those as like the movement, anti-movement kind of abilities, I would almost still like to see a little bit more buffs for that. For Shadow Sneak, I think even maybe going faster or having like a little mini dash into the Shadow Sneak could be really cool. I think for Leaf Storm, having it act almost like, I think Moonblast still has that kind of like shove back, almost like a like disengage. Yeah, I would love, like Air Slash, exactly. I would love to see like a disengage, pushback, a mini dash, like just it's a slight movement, because I don't want them to turn it into a Cinderace with Flame Charge. I don't want it to be, a Surf Greninja or anything like that. But just to kind of close the gap on it. And the biggest thing for Decidueye for me would be if the whole niche is mostly immobile Shredder, give it more lifesteal maybe. Give it more potential to stand there and like, I want to see the health bar trading, right? Like, I want to see their health bar shredding and like going down while yours is like kind of fighting to stay up and go up. Like, I want to see that back and forth. But right now what it feels like is Decidueye gets dove, boom, it's gone. Like, it's almost a magic trick. They ought to give it they ought to give an all-rounder like a magician hollowware, and they ought to give Decidueye a bunny hollowware. You know what I mean? Like, poof, it's gone. Like, I don't know. It's just it's the worst.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue is just how easy it is to KO it. It can get bursted down so fast. It kind of reminds me of Cram in that respect, where I love Dive Cram. It's so fun, but at the same time, you're one of the squishiest characters in the game, kind of making your way up to someone. You have a lot of mobility, but you also, if you're caught, you're just in so much trouble. And I think that's what they're looking for, is to have a Pokemon where, like you said, it's this crazy sniper and it shreds from a distance. And of course, if it gets caught, it goes down. The problem is it's pretty easy to catch people in this game. It's not that hard to get in on any Pokemon. Yeah. If you're a Pokemon with any kind of dive, it's not that tough to get in. Lush, I'm curious if there's another Pokemon you want to talk about that's maybe hurting still, or if you want to talk about someone who really won this balance update.
I think for me personally, the winner is a Pokemon that did not need a buff, and it is Lucario.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
I think that I don't understand. I've been trying since it happened to understand why they felt Lucario needed to be better. I think for a second, people were debating, is it S tier? And they were like, we can't have that. And they had to make sure Lucario was the most prominent Pokemon in the entire game, because the close combat, I don't... it heals you to full. You get unstoppable, and you do thousands of damage. And what do you think of it, Crashy? What do you think of the Lucario change?
I think that I want to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I agree with you. It's crazy. The buff is way too strong. And again, I think there's a sensible change around the corner. But I want to give them credit, because close combat's pick rate to Bone Rush was probably demonstrably low, right? Like, it was so low. And so I see the desire to buff it from a statistics point of view. I think they buffed it too much, obviously, but I appreciate the attempt. It also happened with the perfect storm of Slowsmoke getting Omega buffed. And so now you have the clips that I have seen where you jump into a team, in the clips that I've made, where you jump into a team and slow smoke them, they literally fall to a crawl and you shred them. I mean, just destroy them. It's super fun. I love that close combat is more viable. I think maybe maybe just not so strong, you know? But I respect the chance, right? Like, again, balance is iterative. It just so happens that this poor iteration for close combat lands on Lucario, because, like, it does seem almost, like, biased, right? Like, at this point, we're like, who's running things over there? Like, who is the Lucario dev over there? But it's funny. I'm having fun with it. It's just too strong, definitely.
It is. It's so strong. Clearly, they love Lucario. Well, you know, I think they're in this weird spot where they don't want to take a Pokemon that's always been good and absolutely destroy it. So they're trying to make reasonable changes to this Pokemon, but every time they do, I guess there is also someone there who goes, yeah, but we could buff the other side so that, you know, maybe they try that out. And then all of a sudden we have Power Up Punch close combat coming in. Like you said, the slow smoke stuff that I've seen with it, the slow smoke stuff I've also done with it, it's so mean. You jump into the entire enemy team. If you hit one person, you almost get all your life back. If you hit more than one thing with close combat, you're at full health all of a sudden. And like you said, I think, Luce, you're doing thousands of damage with it. It's like over 2,000 damage with every time you land your close combat on someone. It's absolutely
and you're
insane.
Always unstoppable. Always.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing about it too. Like, you get to your plus power up punch and you're just unstoppable. Like, they just like can't stop you from doing anything. And that I think is a little dangerous, but it's like close combat is just like Tsareena's healing, like, originally, right? Like, it's like, oh, hey, there's just a pack of people. Let me just full heal myself on them and do a bunch of damage at the same time. That said, I'll segue us into Tsareena. I think she lost hard this patch. I think that this sounds crazy, and I don't even know if anybody will agree with me, but I think Tsareena's the worst all-rounder right now. I think Machamp is performing really well. I can see it being laned in solo queue and competitive. I can see it being laned well. I can see it jungled well. I think Charizard's big winner. My boy Charizard's a big winner this patch. Lucario won big. Dragonite fell a little bit. I don't know if I think it's worse than Tsareena, but man, Tsareena, I just play it and I just feel like I'm a shadow of my former self.
I need to play more Tsareena since the update. I need to play more of every single Pokemon. I don't know if you guys always feel like this, but a new update comes out and I feel like I need to spend way more time with everyone because there are things I start to notice even as I go through and I go, oh, actually, this doesn't feel like that much of a nerf at all. And then there are other things that feel massive. So I'm normally a Stomp player. I like Stomp. I like sort of the assassin-y nature of it. You just get that triple Stomp and you kind of delete any carry you walk next to. So I've played mainly Tsareena Stomp with attack weight for a long time. I know everyone plays Triple Axle. It was essentially the meta for this Pokemon. So I can imagine this change feeling... I can imagine it feeling pretty intense. You look at the numbers and it's hard to say exactly how big of a change it is. But yeah, from someone who plays it, obviously, Crashy, you're saying it feels pretty huge. What about you, Luce? Do you play much Tsareena, or have you tried it much since this balance update?
I play quite a bit of Tsareena, and I feel like maybe they just don't want Lucario to have a rival, so they had to hit Tsareena pretty hard. And Tsareena, I think it needed a little tweak. I think it was a little too strong, but I think they gutted it a little too much. I think it just doesn't perform how it did. Stomp did get buffed, so you might have a lot more fun with that, but the triple axle set just, it doesn't feel like what it was, and the Grassy Glide cooldown being increased, it's just, I think they hit too many things, and they should have just maybe turned it back just a little.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that we actually talked about on the Lost episode, is I think we talked about how we thought Tsareena was really, really close to balanced. And I agree. I'm actually surprised that they messed with it so much. Like, Dragonite felt like it needed a lot of changes, honestly, because it was just so dominant in the game. It's basically, if your team doesn't have a Dragonite, you have a much harder chance of winning. But Tsareena never really felt like that. It just felt like something that really cleaned up players who were kind of inexperienced, who didn't know what was going on with Tsareena.
It's a Gengar situation, in my opinion. I really do think that so it's crazy because I did my like hypothetical 8-page patch notes, and I didn't touch Tsareena on my hypothetical like what Crashy would change patch notes, and people were like, "Oh, you're crazy, dude. She's OP." And I'm like, I just am not convinced. Like, if it was me and I did have to change her, I would have taken the damage of triple axle and I would have cut it a tiny bit, and then it just felt good. Like, you have to split when you fight her, you have to know that you need to focus her or how to deal with her. Honestly, slow smoke is an indirect nerf to her automatically, so it's like the combination of, like, I don't really think she was as strong as people thought. Slow smoke comes in, they hit her pretty hard, and then it's just like, man, she really took a hit. So it's a little unfortunate, because I think that her kit design is she's probably outside of Charizard, for Charizard reasons, she's probably my favorite all-rounder to play, because she's just so fluid and fast and loose, and it's just so fun. But man, I've played her a few times now. I've changed my build on her since then, because I don't feel like I'm shredding and able to keep myself alive, so I've gone tankier with her. I didn't used to ever run Buddy Barrier on her. I'm running Buddy Barrier on her now. And it's not a, DOA Pokemon. Like, it's not completely useless, but it's definitely not the same.
Yeah. I think Tsareena always had a really, really strong late game, but had a really mediocre early game to even it out. So I don't think that the hit this large was warranted.
Yeah, it felt odd to me too, but I think you nailed it with the Gengar comparison, where it wasn't that broken, but people really thought it was, and I think it just shred lower ranked players. So they were like, we have to do something about this. They have to balance not only for people who are playing at the top end, but people who are newer to the game or, still climbing, which has got to be 99% of the player base. So I do understand changes like that, but it is a bummer, because I really think they hurt Tsareena from what you guys are saying. Then again, hey, maybe it's good for me. Stomp Tsareena. Let's see it. I want to talk about Dragonite a little bit. Someone who needed big nerfs. I still feel like it's pretty good, but you definitely feel where it got hit. Its Hyper Beam is doing less damage. Its Unite move is no longer as spammable as it used to be. They've not completely changed it to a point where it's unusable, but used to be able to just bunny hop buddy barriers throughout the entire game, and that's no longer a thing, which I think is a much needed change for Dragonite.
Yeah, I think Dragonite's still pretty strong. The Unite change was very big, because you can't just ult on the spot, score, and then ult to Dreadnought. You can't spam it around constantly like you used to. And the Hyper Beam damage on players change was very, very big, but it still has that crazy objective pressure. When a Dragonite's standing near an objective, you have to fight it. You have to run at it. So I think it's still fairly strong, but I don't think it's overly broken anymore. What's your take on Dragonite, Crashy?
So I think Dragonite's actually fallen pretty hard. And the reason why I feel that way is because it has that crazy pressure, but it also is filling the jungle role. And that jungle role is most often used for, like, this hyper carry. We really want to get ahead so that way we know we can win fights. And Dragonite's fights, like, not really that great to me. Like, you have to ramp up, and you can get big damage, don't get me wrong. And you can get it level 8. You don't have to force 9. So, like, first Dreadnought fight, not bad. I just worry that, like, this character's actually not scaling into mid to late game super well. You're not spamming buddy barriers, like we said. You're not really able to use it for, like, scoring a ton, like we said. You have to be a bit more methodical with the Unite move. And you start comparing this character to other junglers, and then you start seeing the team fight potential that it brings. I'm going to pull him out again. Charizard alone, Cinderace, like, these characters have much more impactful Unite moves, and I feel like they have much more damage potential. So now we're weighing the objective pressure and the objective secure versus, like, just being strong and being able to fight. And I think that Dragonite is just slightly slipping under them. Not bad. But it's slipping compared to the potential that other junglers have. Now, if it was really, really good in lane, I don't think it'd be a problem. But it's okay in lane. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's
all right. It's not.
okay.
It doesn't have the worst secure out there, but it's not great. It takes a while to sort of get online. It's hard to be 8 by an objective if you're in lane.
If you're lane,
so. Yeah, it does have some issues there. I've noticed it does have a buff to extreme speed. Doesn't even feel like close to enough of a buff for that move, even though I really like the way it works. What's that?
It's just the range, right?
And cooldown. So it's a slight range increase and a 2-second cooldown, which is pretty big for cooldown, don't get me wrong, but it's like, I don't know if that's that huge of a deal there. I feel like they could actually buff that a bit more. And I'm surprised we see no change to Outrage, which isn't terrible, but it has a lot of components to it that I think are just big drawbacks. Like any Pokemon that fights like that, people can get away from you pretty easily, and you stun yourself out of it. So you stun yourself out of some very annoying situations. You stun yourself out of a good chase. You stun yourself out of scoring. You just have to be a lot more careful when you're playing the Outrage build. And I'm surprised when we see close combat for Lucario get this buff. Why didn't we see a little love for Outrage there? It feels like it could use a little something to make it viable.
Yeah, definitely. It's very hard to stick to Pokemon in this game. Mobility is just so large, right? I mean, Cinderace is dashing every 5 seconds. It's kicking off you. It's flipping. It's really hard to chase it down. When Dragonite first released on day 1, I was a big Outrage fan. The first game I played it, I was like, this feels crazy. But after I started playing it a little more, I realized how underwhelming it is, and I definitely think it could use some love. What about you, Crashy?
Yeah, I don't know. I think now is definitely the time to start experimenting with it. I would love to see maybe some teams, and this doesn't really translate to solo queue too much, but I'd love to see some teams maybe try Outrage in like solo top lane, see if they can, maybe handshake farm some against the Lucario and just pull it out and see what it could do. Maybe I don't know. I think that like, there's going to be picks in this game that will shine in the future too. Like there's going to be like, I think back to Decidueye, and I keep thinking, man, maybe it just takes the perfect defender with Decidueye that locks people down just long enough. You know what I mean? That it can go, shred through them before they can move, like the right snare, the right stun. And I think that like sometimes you just can't see the bigger picture, and I don't think that's what's happening here. I think that Dragonite is just a little bit underwhelming on the Outrage side, but could be explored with, could be buffed for sure. I guess we'll just see. It's fun to play, but the self-stun, man, it's just so annoying. So annoying.
Can we talk real quickly, or for a while maybe, about one of, I think, the best changes to come out of a balance change, which is what's going on with Charizard right now. I think Charizard, the way Charizard plays right now, it's so fluid, it's so fast. I love playing this new Charizard. Charizard was always on the border of being really good. It was just always really close. Its Unite move is one of the best, if not the best in the game at certain points. It's kind of defined by that Unite. It had struggles in lane. It really needs a lot of experience. You probably want to put it in the jungle. But now the way you can move in and out with Fire Blast and what's the other one called? I always mix it up. Flamethrower. Thank you. Fire Blast, Flamethrower. The way you can sort of move through fights, it feels like you can outplay with Charizard in such an amazing way right now. I absolutely love Char. I think it's so good right now and so fun.
The design of this character is just so unique, because I think you nailed it. You play Charizard for the Unite move. You're not, nobody goes, oh my god, that was a crazy flamethrower. Like that just doesn't really happen. But you have this kit design, and I still want to see some love for Flare Blitz Fire Punch. I'm just throw that out there, I think, just to pull it up a little bit. But regardless, Charizard's in a great position. You have this kit design that allows for this like poking style. I don't really want to initiate, and now you give it the quality of life of this free flowing movement, and you really do have it. It's almost, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like this bungee cable kind of action where you step in and you burn, and you step out and you poke, and you step in and you burn, and it gets so fun. And then the minute that Unite pops off, you go up in the air, maybe you drop a slow smoke or an X attack, maybe you're using the full heal to make sure that you can get it off, whatever you're using, and you just shred, and you can position. They increase the range on the ult's auto attacks, so now you're flying over terrain, and oh my gosh, the way that they did Charizard is like the perfect buff. It's super strong, but it doesn't feel broken to me. Like it's definitely not great in lane. I agree. I think that this character is a jungler, and it just feels good, man. It just feels so good to play Charizard right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Charizard is one of the winners of this patch for sure. Flamethrower feels so fluid. Fire Blast feels so fluid that sometimes I press it and don't realize it's come out, because I'm so used to that pause and that stop that it used to have. But yeah, Charizard, you can't escape it. It can kite you. It's the perfect anti-carry. So if teams are starting to picking Cinderace and Greninja again, as we're seeing, Charizard is just the counter to that. The Unite is so threatening in a team fight. It's hard to deal with. I know you experimented with slow smoke on it, Crashy, and they just weren't able to get away. And it's just, it's good to see, because I don't know if you guys remember when the game first started, people talk about Charizard being the worst Pokemon in the game, and it's good to see it rise up. It's good to see it be played a lot.
Yeah, it's such a cool one. For me, it feels like, at least from feel wise, it's like the winner of this patch for me, because I just love the way it feels, and it's hard to really decide how that, affects a character on a tier list or something like that. But the way you can play this character is it's just so fun. It's vastly improved. I love that bungee cord analogy. That's like a great way to look at it, because you really are moving in and out. And now also the chase on it is so brutal. It's as you said, Luce, you can't get away from it. You flamethrower, you catch up to them. I keep blanking on the name. Fire Blast. It, it slows them when you hit them with it. So it's a great way to also chase people down. I just really love Char right now. I think it's awesome. Let's hit another Pokemon. Who would you like to talk about, Lush?
Machamp. Let's talk about Machamp, my favorite Pokemon of all time. And they gave Machamp some love. And I don't think people realize how impactful this change actually was. So when you look at the numbers, Karate Chop now can actually contest Lucario's Medium Mash Quick Attack combo in the top lane. So if you hit Bulk Up and become immune to that pushback, you can actually use Machamp in the top lane pretty decently now. And that Unite, as we know, completely just deletes a Pokemon. That little range of Dynamic Punch, that little increase, very, very big. You can make plays you couldn't before. And I'm so happy with Machamp right now, especially even running Slow Smoke on it. It will lock you down and you just will not escape. What do you guys think of Machamp?
I think it's great.
Yeah,
I jungle it. I seen Zeraora in the Shiny League. We'll probably talk about that.
Zeraora popped off.
Oh my gosh, like watching him. And again, like there is some contextual difference between what builds you can run and how you're playing it. 5-stack meta and solo queue online with ranked is just very different. But I mean, I'm still sticking to my normal build. I've been running Muscle, Razor, and Buddy. I come out of the jungle and I'm a monster, man. Like you get that boot. And you're right, Karate Chop is way better for lane, but that almost doesn't even affect me when I'm jungling. But I come out of jungle and I like start nailing this combo. I Dynamic Punch onto them and I Razor Claw slow. And then my boosted auto's up. And then I leap to them. And the whole time I'm just beating them. And it's like, this character is an all-rounder that's like auto attack and ability focused. You have like Charizard's auto attack focused. Lucario is like mostly ability focused. Tsareena is like mostly ability focused. This character is just literally dynamic, and it's got burst. It has mobility. The Unite move has always been phenomenal, and they did such a small change that changed so much. Small changes that did so much for the character, and I don't think it's OP. I don't think I'm worried about it. When I see it, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, cool. It used to be like Garchomp, like, oh my gosh, we're at a disadvantage. But no, it's solid, man. I think that it's really, really fun, and I'm really pleased with it.
Yeah, I like the changes to Machamp. It needed only a little bit. It's weird because some Pokemon are just like on that edge a little. They just need a little. It got a small lifesteal upgrade. The Karate Chop for me is probably the biggest change because I often play it in the top lane. So I just feel the difference there. I can secure a lot better, against enemy Pokemon, which is really nice. The Dynamic Punch range does feel pretty intense. Submission, I think it's cool that they changed it to where it still does damage when a Pokemon, kind of rejects your submission, when it's like full healed or, safeguard or any of the million unstoppable situations a Pokemon is in now. Although, because everyone is just always unstoppable, I think submission is still not very good, unfortunately. It used to be crazy good, but you just can't find a situation to actually grab somebody. Everyone is unstoppable in this game.
I think if I remember correctly, maybe I'm crazy. Submission actually doesn't get blocked by full heal anymore.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah,
true?
I'm pretty sure that's a change that happened.
Oh.
Now I feel crazy because I'm pretty sure I've seen that, but now I might be crazy. All right, well, hey, listen, this is that beautiful time. Let us know in the comments, because I actually don't remember. I swear, maybe this is just a dream and I don't remember, but I could have swore that was a change. That said, I'm going to say it. I think Dynamic Punch is just the better option 9 times out of 10. But every now and then, I'm in a submission mood when I see a Wiggly, and I'm just like, no, Wiggly, no. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on it.
Yeah, I think Machamp's in a much better place, and it just took a little tweak here. Speaking of a Pokemon that got actually kind of a big tweak, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think of this, is Gengar. So Gengar got a really interesting rework where Hex and Dream Eater now come earlier than Shadow Ball and Sludge Bomb. It's kind of giving it this stronger gank coming out of the jungle if you're using Hex. And now not only does Dream Eater come early, if you are playing this Dream Eater build, when you KO an enemy Pokemon, the ability resets. So you kind of set yourself up to have these massive, 5 KOs on enemy teams. It's nice as a Pokemon like Gengar, where I feel like one of its biggest issues was always that, yes, it can delete a Pokemon, but then it's standing right there and someone else can just KO Gengar. At least now with the Dream Eater build, maybe you can combo that and you can trade. You can get a few KOs for your one Gengar going down. It still lacks that escape mobility or anything like that. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think, because even with these changes, I still am like, I don't know what to do with Gengar.
So I think Gengar's level 5. It got a lot stronger on the Hex build, but I kind of feel like it's weaker on the Shadow Ball build. I liked the poke of Shadow Ball level 5. It felt a lot better to me. And I think, as you said, the Pokemon just... When it comes to team fights, you can maybe delete one person, but then you're going to get deleted yourself. It's especially with the Wigglytuffs running around, like you can't do anything as Gengar. Crash, do you have any thoughts on Gengar?
Yeah, this character is just in a weird spot, man. I really think that the Dream Eater change was formidable. I don't think I like the level swapping though. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's just not that good for bees, and you can't really lane this character well, and so I agree. I think that having Shadow Ball would be better in a lot of situations. Sludge Bomb, even, I don't know. It's just weird. It's a weird spot for the character to be in. And I think that what they're going for is like the right direction, but I would have done it a little bit differently. What I think the character needs is more uptime on its mobility abilities. So Dream Eater and Hex. And Dream Eater kind of got it. Like, it got, I think, a really good change. Like, I'm pretty happy with it. But I think that like something as simple as just giving it like a couple of charges of Hex would be good on a cooldown. So that way you have like, oh, I'm going to go in and Hex combo and go crazy. And then you're like, oh, wow, they full healed it. Or, oh, it's not, I missed. Let me just Hex out of here real quick. You know what I mean? And maybe it's not just charges. Maybe it's just Hex has 2 activations. And then like if you, like that second one can chain into being the, how you spam it. I don't really know how to make that functionality work. I just think that like the uptime on this character's abilities feels way too down. Like you said, you're just kind of standing there when you don't have combo. If you're in their face, you're just kind of in their face. And the other thing that I think is just needs to be talked about is this character's early game, even when you're jungling, is just so slow, man. It's so bad. Like, give the character some AD or attack so it can just beat some jungle camps. It's so, like, man, I've had games where I feel like if you mess up your clear on Gengar, because like, everybody messes up their clear every now and then. You accidentally walk away from Bouffalant too early or something. You'll be showing up to lane and it's like you're running out of time. Like, you're like, I gotta get there. Like, come on, man.
If you snap back on Will-O-Wisp, you won't make bees. You won't get there in bees.
It's the characters just truly needs some changes. I really don't like tossing the idea of reworks around, and it kind of just got a rework in a sense. But this one might need some real looking at.
Yeah, I just think it needs some way to disengage properly. I mean, I know you could run an eject button or something like on it. Sure, you could use its Unite, but who wants to use a Unite to run away all the time? It just... When a Pokemon falls low on a tier list for me, one of the things that I think is most important is how does it perform in the critical last few minutes of the game, where a lot happens. And Gengar is just one of those Pokemon where near an ending team fight, if the enemy team is even mildly competent, you're almost completely useless. You get 1 KO. Like, that's all you can get, and you've got to be so sneaky to even get that. Coordinated teams, I can't imagine ever seeing a Gengar in its current state. I just don't know what you would ever do with it, why you would ever have it. It can work really well early, and solo queue, again, you're getting those 5 KOs, but yeah, it's just still in such a rough spot, which is a bummer because it's a really cool Pokemon. And I think it's another one of those Pokemon like Garchomp that people have just been rooting for so long after its early nerfs, and I don't think it's ever made it back from there. I do want to
It would
talk
be,
about one.
I
Oh,
think
go
it'd
ahead.
be really interesting to see. Like, we have all these ideas and we talk a lot about the kit, but it'd be really interesting to see them say, you know what, we like the way the kit's playing. Let's just give it a completely different Unite move. Like complete, because I don't know, man. Like, I don't really know ghost moves all that well and what they could do. But maybe the change is some long range nuking Unite move, or you summon like a ghost field, and I don't know. Like, everybody, you're like you deal more damage to it, or SP damage is raised. Like, I don't know, but like maybe that's the change. Maybe you get really wacky with it. But yeah, Gengar.
Yeah, it could use a new passive too, I think.
Oh yeah, passive's terrible. I always forget that, and I get comments every time. They're like, "You never talk about the passive." I'm sorry, I forgot.
Can we talk about Zeraora really quickly? So I'll say this: for the past 2 patches, I have no idea what's going on with Zeraora. I don't know. I don't know. It's like something about it's broken, or it's not broken, or it at times completely underwhelming, and at times the most powerful thing inside the entire game. At times, Wild Charge completely takes away your health bar. Other times, Wild Charge doesn't feel like it's doing that much damage. It had a spark bug. It had its Volt Absorb bug. Mm-hmm. But then I also think something was happening with Spark. Illuminate me. I don't know what is going on with Zeraora.
All I know what to say about Zeraora is that the character has been it's been in this looming weird spot for like at least a month or two. It's weird. The character's not bad. I don't think anybody can say the character's bad. But at the same time, it's simultaneously as bad, which I said that on purpose because it makes no sense. I think the biggest definitive thing I can say about it, like where I feel very confident saying this, is that leaving this character at the level 10 Unite move, that automatically hurts its viability. Like, when you look at it and you just think to yourself, well, why would I pick that? Like, there's so many more other options. And the Unite's not, I don't think, strong enough to justify it. But the character is weird. It's just weird. They said that they fixed the passive bug. I swear I think it's still happening. I got two-shotted by a Zeraora like yesterday, and I was like, wait a minute, like, I gotta try this now. You know what I mean? I was like, what is that? Like, what? Like that doesn't just happen. Like, I don't understand it, and it's weird. So it's just in a weird spot. When I put it on tier list, or when I talk about it, people are like, oh, what do you think on Zeraora? I literally just say, like, I don't know right now. Like, I need time. I need info. I need testing. Like, I need MathCore to like they need to tell me, because I don't know what I'm doing with this character. It's so bizarre.
Same, dude. I feel the exact same way, where I'm going, what is happening? Why? And the same thing happened to me in a match earlier. It deleted me in a half second, and I was like, okay, that's the Zeraora I remember being kind of bugged. And then another moment a little later, same amount of Wild Charge hits, it just felt like, oh, nothing happened there. I was totally fine. I don't know what's going on. Sorry to interrupt. I know you're about to talk, Luge, but I'm just like, what is happening with this Pokemon?
Zeraora feels so strange right now. I don't know if the bugs are sorted out, because even myself, I'll have games where I play and I drop 60,000 damage. The next game, 110,000 damage. Like, what happened there? Why did I do so much damage in this game? Was I just playing so much better? I just don't see that. I think there's still something a bit strange still happening with it. But one thing I will say is there is a build that I am dying to try on Zeraora, and that is Discharge Slow Smoke.
Because I was thinking the same thing.
It's so fun to yoink people around with Discharge, and there is no way they're getting out of it if you do that.
Do you want to slow smoke them and pull them, or do you want to pull them and slow smoke them?
I mean, whichever one is available.
Can you imagine
right? Like,
pulling someone and then you slow smoke them?
That'd be awesome.
That's so mean.
I mean, I feel like slow smoke lasts for so long that if you use it when you're about to pull, you'll slow them into your pull, and they'll still be slow because the item is balanced. The item is balanced.
That item is balanced. That's a good point. We should talk about some of these items being balanced. I'm trying to think. There was a change on Talonflame, and I was literally messing with it right before we started recording here, and I want to test this a little more, because I actually think maybe some of the numbers we're getting on Talonflame's fly are changed, like the developers changed it really quickly, or maybe we were just wrong, because this actually might be kind of a sneaky buff to fly in a weird way. But I would need to play around with it a bit more. Crashy, I know you messed around with Aerial Ace a bit. How are you feeling about it?
So for me with Talonflame, there's always been like two kind of styles of play. There's been like Brave Bird Aerial Ace, which is very nukey, very damage heavy. It has steal potential, but it's very all in, right? Like, you don't get to loom around. Then you have the more I'm kind of free flying. I've got flame charge and fly, and I can steal. You have to deal with the presence of me. You know what I mean? Like, if you know I'm around, you have to deal with me. And that had its own play style. Well, fly takes a step back, or seemingly takes a step back. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to test being a nuking Talonflame. I want to play it. I want to dive in on every fight. I'm not gonna like, I've sometimes run Score Shield Goal Getter on Talonflame and like just score a bunch around the map. I don't want to focus on any of that. I want to be at every fight. I want to dive every squishy. And I have consistently put up 100,000 damage games on this character. And I'm running Razor Claw, Focus Band, and Buddy Barrier. So I'm like surviving. I'm healing myself. I've got the focus band, and I'm just diving on someone and just full comboing them and just deleting people. And the thing about this build, like when I play it, is when you fall behind, it feels like, oh man, like I dive in and I just die. But when you don't fall behind, when you're ahead, it gets scary. I've been running slow smoke on it, so I brave bird in and just drop a slow smoke, and I just go crazy, and it feels phenomenal. Like, I actually don't really care for Talon. Like, Lush, I don't really play Talon a ton. He's just not really my favorite. I've been enjoying Talon so much with Brave Bird Aerial Ace. It's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, I love Talonflame because to me, it's just such like a, I guess, cheeky Pokemon is the way to talk about it, right? Like, you come in, you pop off with Fly, you dash out, then you fly over a wall, and then you come back, and then you score some points, and then it's just so much fun to play for me. I absolutely love Talonflame, and I don't think this feels like a nerf on the Fly set. It kind of feels better. I think they were just trying to incentivize you using Fly to fight, not to just run away, because those score comps are probably frustrating people quite a lot. But yeah, I think Talon's in a cool spot. I haven't actually tried the Aerial Ace Brave Bird build much. I played it one game, and it felt pretty cool, but I felt like I was playing against a Wigglytuff. So I felt like I was suffering from the same issues as always, right? That's just one thing you go through with it. But yeah, I think Talonflame is pretty fun.
I'm wondering, I mean, I like Flame Charge Fly. That's kind of the Talon that I've played for a long time. But given that Fly now resets more often if you hit an opposing Pokemon with it, and Aerial Ace gives you that healing, I'm wondering, are they hoping people try to combo those two moves together? Like, hey, you hit your Fly, you fight a little bit, you recover with Aerial Ace, and now all of a sudden your Fly is back up because you're still in this fight here. I'm wondering if they're trying to get people to almost brawl a little bit more with that Fly and Aerial Ace, but I've really got to test it out. I'm seeing things that are saying it has a 12-second cooldown when you miss and don't hit an enemy, but as I was testing it earlier, it's only 10 seconds, which is 1 second off of its original timing here. And if that's the case, I kind of think, I think if anything, it's almost a buff. I mean, the damage is lowered. You literally do more damage with Brave Bird than Fly now, but still, that feels like it could be a slight buff on a Talonflame. So I don't really know what to say about that change yet. We have a quick change to Gardevoir, which is Future Sight now has the ability to reset faster when it's not Future Sight Plus yet, which is pretty cool. But I want to just jump in here and start talking about Slow Smoke because it's freaking crazy. It's probably the craziest change in this entire patch. Crashy, what do you think?
So I feel like I'm going to be the caveat or the devil's advocate side of this. I love where Slow Smoke is. Now, to put a pin in that really quickly, I think it's overtuned, but not very much. I would love to see the cooldown go up a little bit, but we have had a full heal eject button meta consistently. And yeah, there's score comps, there's some score shield or some goal getter going around, right? But you look at any North American tournament, and it's either one team has like 4 full heals or one team has 4 eject buttons. So basically, TTV always has like 1 full heal and 4 eject buttons, and every other team runs like 4 full heals and 1 eject button, or some combination. And so I'm hearing these whispers and this rhetoric of, oh my god, Slow Smoke's just so crazy strong, and like, oh my god, they're running 2 of it per team. And I'm like, I'm looking at the loading screens on these tournaments, and I'm seeing Slow Smoke, Score Shield, full heal. Like, I'm seeing like this diversity, and I'm like, yo, this is great. Like, this is sick. And now I'm starting on ladder. I'm messing around with it. I don't know what competitive players are doing, but I'm starting to mess around with X speed a little bit to get myself out of that Slow Smoke, to give myself some mobility. I'm messing around. I'm enjoying it. X attack got a little bit of a buff. I don't think it's exactly the highest viability, but I feel like we have more diversity, and I like that a lot. Maybe the cooldown's just a little too short. Maybe. Or maybe the efficacy is a little too strong. Maybe they can tone it down somewhere. raise up the cooldown 20 seconds, maybe pull the slow or the range down a little bit. Some kind of balance of that, but don't gut it. Please don't gut it, because it's finally good, and I feel like that's healthy.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we got a meta shift, because I think the game needed something to mix it up, and Slow Smoke's really done that. It's changed the game a lot. I don't know if it's for the better, but I like change. I'm a person that likes change. Anything that makes Wigglytuff stronger, I don't enjoy. But Slow Smoke, it's cool to see, because it actually gives you a lot of a potential and outplay, right? If the enemy team gets Zapdos, Slow Smoke them, they're not going to be able to score. There's so many applications for this now that can really change the way people play the game, which I think is really good for the game, I guess, in the long run. And I like the item. I think that calling it a slow is a lie, because it's a stun. You don't move. You do not move. You
stun smoke.
You go back in time, essentially. And I would just maybe turn it down a little, but keep it strong. I like to see it strong, but maybe turn it down a little.
I'm kind of with you both, honestly. I like it. I like that there's a change here. So I think everything you said, Crashy, is kind of where I'm at with it. I want different items to be viable. You know, when I see someone run Potion Slowbro and you kind of see how it works, you're like, oh yeah, I like that there's some viability to this right now. I like seeing, even though it's so mean, I like seeing Wiggly with a Slow Smoke, because now not only is it walking into you and it's putting you to sleep, it's putting you in this stun smoke. It's kind of crazy. You
cute
see
charms
someone like
you
Lucario,
in first. Like, come on now.
Oh yeah, cute charms you. Yeah, it's so cool to see things change, and I'm actually all for changes that kind of throw the game into whack for a little while until everyone can sort of figure out what's happening to it. So while I think it is pretty nutty right now, I also I'm fully here for it. I love when they make a change like this. I'm with you too. We could talk about attack speed, X attack, a little bit. I think it feels better, but it's still a little, I don't know. I can't, I was messing around with it in matches and in practice mode, and I'm like, this still doesn't feel like it's doing enough. It's better, I guess, but it still just doesn't feel like it's doing enough.
I feel like an easy thing to do with X attack, which might be crazy, but there's a sacrifice for it, is to just give it crazy low cooldown. Like, give it like a 15 to 20 second cooldown, and then it's just like every time you're engaging someone, you're just popping off with it. But again, the downside is that you're not full healing out of anything, you're not ejecting away from anything. It's truly the I want to do a ton of damage ability, and I don't think that you can just take an item like that and just keep buffing its efficacy, because that's terrifying. Like, if you can you imagine if you're just shredding everything when you do have it on, even if it's a 40 to 60 or 9, even if it was a 90 second cooldown and you have crazy shred on it. I don't think that that's the way to go. So I think it's just like you got to give it a little bit of love on the, like, it just needs to always be up, basically, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
I agree with you on that. I think that when you're taking X attack, it needs to be worth the value of you're going to die in this team fight. You're not going to live for very long, so you need to be able to do something, and without having the ability to eject things safely, without having the ability to use full heal, like it definitely, I think, needs to be something that's up really often, so you can use in every engagement. Yeah,
I think so too. I think it's close. It's kind of like how I feel about some Pokemon, where it's always like, it's close. It's just, I feel like there's so many things I'd rather run instead. Before we just hop into talking about these recent tournaments and worlds and everything like that, I'm just curious if we all want to throw out a Pokemon we think won this patch. For me, it's Charizard. I love what's going on with Charizard so much. For me, it won this balance update. What about you, Crashy?
I think so too. I think because it was a grand change. Otherwise I would maybe give it to another Pokemon, but it's a change from like, Charizard's cool, to being like, oh wow, yeah, I want to play it all the time, which I did. Like, Charizard's been Charizard's my favorite Pokemon. I'm an old school Gen 1 boomer. Charizard was the first character I played when I played the Japanese beta. It was my first main. It's just been the thing that I've always played, and now I feel like it's worth playing, and yeah, it's a huge winner for me.
Yeah. I think Charizard definitely came out on top in this patch. I want to say Lucario, but if you're already the best and then you stay the best, is that really that impactful? So,
So I mean, it's still one big. Close combat's still one big, so I won't take it away from you.
Yeah, and look, Garchomp got some love. Yeah, but I think Charizard is probably the winner of this patch.
That's true. I mean, both Lucario staying the greatest and Garchomp actually becoming really, really playable. Those are also huge wins in this patch. Let's talk about Worlds being announced. Pokemon Unite is going to be at the World Championships in August in London. There is rumored to be a $1 million prize pool for this tournament. Multiple teams from every region are competing. We don't know what that's going to be yet. We don't know how many teams from North America, Japan, the Australian servers, where are they all going to come from? How many? How does qualifying work? We don't know any of that information, but this does signal a big investment into Unite, which is what we were all hoping for. I mean, they seem to be doing a lot with the sort of the Japanese team and Unite. Like, they're pretty stoked on the game. They have tournaments all the time. Their Twitter seems to be actually tweeting on time with things. But other regions, I don't know if we're getting as much love, but this really shows a worldwide commitment to this game and this game releasing more places. So yeah, Lush, what do you think about this announcement for Worlds?
I am so excited for Worlds. As you two know, my team Owl is hoping to compete in Worlds. So we're really looking forward to that. We're doing our best to make it. We've been practicing all day, every day, versing top players and having a great time doing it. And I just think this is so big for the game. I think it's so big for the game because I'm a Pokemon fan through and through. I have in my entire life, and I remember the impact that the Pokemon world just had on the entire organization. And it was so big. And I honestly think that this game has a big future ahead of it. And I'm excited to see this be the beginning of that. What's your take, Crashy?
Yeah, I think the introduction of Worlds it's the head nod that says, you know what, we're in this for the long haul, right? Like at very least, it's the nod or the message to say we're going to give this a shot and see how it goes. But I think that the online reception for competitive for Pokemon Unite has been the strongest part of this entire game. Competitive has been the biggest part, and there's a lot of it's a kid's game, it's a casual game, it's fun, blah, 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 blah. But at its core, it's a MOBA, and there's never been a MOBA that's been made casually, right? Like, or mainly casually. And Unite's the same. Like, yeah, it's got the casual elements to it. It's got the catch-up mechanics. It's short, it's mobile, but actually, it's so incredibly competitive. And the crazy thing is that it's very volatile. So you have to not only do you have to be incredibly good, you have to be perfect. You have to be so perfect when you're playing against some of these teams.
You cannot make a mistake.
You cannot make a mistake. And I think that we have these regional metas, and it's all going to come to fruition. And like I said, Spraggles, we talked about this in the Lost episode. Which meta's better? We just don't know. We have opinions. Which meta's better? And I can't wait to see it. I've been peeking I watched the Korean LAN event they did. I watched the Japanese tournaments that they do. They do monthly Japanese tournaments. I would love to see some of that like pre-world stuff come to the Western world a little bit. I understand maybe they're just waiting and using that as like a testing platform. Who knows, to see how everything's going to run. But yeah, details. That's probably the most thing we're excited for. Obviously, Lush was a former tank player for like me and my team. We weren't super serious, but watching him and Suluwu peel off to focus on the Australia team specifically, they've been doing really well. I'm really excited to see how many slots the OCE or like Australia region will get, because I think that they have a really big chance. I would love to see Lush at Worlds. I'm most likely going to be in participation to the event, assuming that if that's an option. And I think that Worlds is going to be huge for this game. There's so many people that know about Unite. Content creators know about it. Worlds is just that next amplification for the game,
Yeah, I agree. No, sorry, Spraggles, I'll let you go.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, and with a prize pool like that, I mean, we could start to see some bigger orgs start sniffing around this game. I mean, and there are a few teams that are really poised to, obviously get picked up in that situation. TTV openly was talking about looking for, one of those big orgs to kind of grab them and make them one of their teams. I'm interested to see when the details start to get finalized, what happens to this game, because we could also see some sharks come into it. Like, people who are silly good at other MOBAs can jump into this and start getting very, very good. A big org can go, no, we're going to win Worlds. There's $1 million on the line. We're going to put a team up. We've got people who are great at MOBAs. Let's throw them into Unite. The amazingly good thing about Unite is the matches are so short. So I feel like you can learn this game a lot quicker than you can learn a game where the matches take, 40 minutes to an hour at times. You can run back-to-back games really fast. So we could see new teams hopping into this. I mean, there's no question that this announcement is positive for the game in every single way. These big prize pools, I hope it stays huge. I hope it's a huge prize pool because it just gets a lot of eyes on this game. And that's what Unite needs. It needs to continue to grow and continue to get a lot of hype around it. And I don't care how many $40 skins I need to buy. I'll keep buying them if it means we have a world. So I'm really, really excited for it.
Yeah, I think that the implication of big tournaments it sends such a ripple through the community, because when you can see the developer support for the game, it gives third-party companies a reason to say, oh, there's viewership here, there's reach potential, we can promote our product, our services, let's start running these tournaments. And we just saw something like that with A Drive and Smash GG. That was a collaboration event that they put on, a 3-month league, and I don't know if you were ready to segue into that, but events like that can easily coexist if the community is thriving. If we have that reach potential, those numbers, people are watching these tournaments, then that's where the sponsors come in. That's where, TTV gets signed. Aphelion, I believe, is on a contract, or they're signed with their team. Team Shiny is obviously signed, under A Drive. So that's where these teams will start to foster an ecosystem within their own regions. Right now, our region is it's real scrappy. Basically, everybody's just scrimming and playing. But it's starting to legitimize. The Worlds announcement, the official Worlds announcement, was step 1, but the bargaining chips aren't really on the table just yet because we don't have all the full details. As soon as we know, hey, there's 4 slots North America or 2 slots, and then you start, you can leverage the details and the data. That's whenever it's going to get really interesting on the esports side of things within each region.
Yeah. Let's talk about. Oh no, go ahead, Lush. Yeah, I don't want to cut you off. So we keep jumping all over. You know what? Forget it, Lush. Never mind. You don't get to say anything.
I'll leave. No. So Worlds just gets me really excited. So I've been trying to jump in because I just love talking about Worlds, and it's something that I'm so excited to see because I love the competitive scene of this game. I think it's really, really good. I think we're still early, so we'll look back in a couple of years and we'll think, oh wow, people were bad at this game, right? It's still early on. But I'm so excited to see the Japanese meta versus the NA meta versus the EU meta. Even we have our own meta here in Australia, and everyone playing on an even playing ground, a LAN event, no ping. I think it's going to be amazing to watch. I think it's going to be a spectacle, and that's all I want to say. I got it out. I did it. We can continue.
Perfect. Well, let's talk about this recent tournament. So there were 2 huge tournaments recently. There was that G4 Invitational tournament that had a big prize pool and a lot of the top teams you would expect from North America competing. And then after that, we had the Shiny League finishing up their months-long journey into their grand finals championship match. And not a big shocker. We saw 2 teams that I think would probably be expected to make it all the way to the end in the grand finals, TTV and Team Shiny. We can talk about a few things leading up to that first, but I don't know if you guys have thoughts on the G4 tournament that you want to hop into before that.
Yeah, I think huge shout out to G4 and Frosk for putting that together. Obviously, Frosker, and she's plays for Sucker Bunch and works with that team, and so it really seems like a passion project from her to bring G4 and a competitive platform to the game, and that's huge, right? Like, that's an individual person taking their love and their passion for something to promote this game, and that's what we need, right? It was a massive prize pool. It was $5,000. I think the winning team got 2,000 of it, or was it the full? No, it was a 5,000 winners takes all.
I thought it was winner take all.
No, you're right. Yeah,
it
was winner take all, and it was an amazing. There was some crazy games. I'm talking absolutely crazy games. There was a tie. I mean, a 683 to 683 tie. That event, I watched it. I kept watching it. Usually I'll drop off events. I'm going to be honest. I drop off in the middle and I come back for finals, semifinals, and I kept watching it. And then I looked at the clock. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing anything. I went to the kitchen. I threw it on the TV. I'm cooking and I'm like watching around the corner. I'm like cooking. Like, I couldn't get my eyes off of it. It was an amazing event. Me and you, Spraggles, we did the Crashy Cup, my little event. I know how stressful it can be to sit there and solo produce an event. So Frosk, like, I could tell, dude, she had her work cut out for her. Again, I just want to give her so many mad props for not only just putting her passion and bringing G4 to that, but sitting there and doing the work and it was long. That was a long event. So wow, man, just that was such a great event. And then Team Shiny event was great, or the Shiny League was great.
Yeah, Luge, did you see G4 at all?
Yeah, I did. And I would say, as Crashy said, Froshgren did an incredible job. Like, that was not easy. She did incredibly, like, honestly, well done. That was amazing. And I think that tournament is the most hype I've been watching this game ever. Every game was so neck and neck. There were teams like Darwie's Stray Dogs that performed like I've never seen them. People were playing their hearts out, and it was so incredible to watch. There was that tied game with TTV, like, oh, what a tournament. And Team Shiny, obviously, I loved watching you guys cast that. That was great. You guys did well. Well done, guys. Well done. But yeah, that was also incredible. And I'm loving seeing the competitive scene in this game really, really take off. But what was your take on it, Spragels, on both the tournaments?
Yeah, G4 was awesome. I saw that Frosk said, which again, very cool that she did that. It's so nice for people like that to support this game, because they have a lot of influence, and getting G4 behind it, that was just awesome. And I got to kind of co-stream. I co-streamed the whole thing. So I was watching it the whole time, commentating the whole time. When I was done, I had no voice. I was talking for like 8 hours straight. It was great. Some of the best games I've seen in a tournament in a long time. Like, yeah, some of those wins, that draw win was absolutely insane, but there were 3 or 4 games in that tournament that were just so exciting. So I really enjoyed that. And something that it also set up was Team Shiny taking this huge win before the Shiny League, and then, of course, them making it all the way to the grand finals in the Shiny League tournament. So, yeah, Crashy and I got to cast that with A-Drive and Zlinks, and that was very fun to do. So it was really cool. It was actually nice to have a little bit of a break, which I didn't know what that would be like, but it was kind of cool to just sit back and watch Crashy, cast a game here and there. That was really, really fun. And that tournament was interesting because the G4 tournament, TTV did okay. And for people who don't know, maybe people who are just, getting into Unite right now, TTV is the most dominant team sort of in the West. They've won the most out of any team. So they're often talked about as one of the best teams in the game. They did pretty well in the G4 tournament. They had a couple close matches, and then they got beaten by Shiny in the semifinals. However, in the Shiny League tournament, I don't think I've ever seen TTV play better. They stomped every single team they played, and it was pretty mean, some of these games. I was like, oh my God, they're going up against some of the best teams in this game, and they were putting on a show. As Crashy said, they were putting on a clinic at one point. I love that phrase. I've never used it right in my life, but they were putting on a clinic. When they went up against Team Shiny in the finals, there was a really exciting game too, but I mean, they were dominant. Dominant.
The thing about TTV is that I feel like they're just like the godfathers of competitive with this game, and we were fresh off a new patch, right? And this patch, it put them so close to like an OG meta for them. Like it gave them Lucario top lane, it gave them Cinder jungle. Like you have, I mean, granted it's like Wiggly bottom because Wiggly's just been so dominant, but you have like a tri-lane bottom, Goof playing Pikachu mostly. It just gave them so close to like a meta and a comp that they're used to playing, and I just think they just ran home with it. It was super, super fun to watch. But even the storyline, just to talk about the entire event, like the storyline of like Aphelion, Red Love's team, who, listen, I think that it's worth talking about. Red Love and his team, they're the villains. They're loud, they're angry, they like to talk trash. Like, I like it, man. So like, if y'all are listening to this, I think that dynamic is so cool, and it doesn't feel forced, right? Like, they're just loud, they like to get hyped up, and they're good, right? Like, they're consistently winning tournaments on the side. They play a bunch of different tournaments. They're keeping like these win streaks going. They have this rhetoric, this conversation, and they take down Team Shiny, which is, I would say, I wouldn't call it a huge upset, but a bit of an upset. And they send Team Shiny into the losers bracket, and then Team Shiny brings it back to get their rematch up against them, and then they take them down. And it's like, it's a great third place finish, man. It's a great place to be for Aphelion, and I love seeing them continue to push themselves. So big shout outs to Aphelion. Red Love, I truly do think that he's just one of the better Venusaurs I see. He's so practiced and he performs so well. And the thing about Aphelion is that their team fight is phenomenal. They are
Yeah.
the death ball squad. They're really good at it. It's almost weird because you would just think like, yeah, just stay close to each other in death ball. They're really good at it. They death ball together. They just wipe people out, and then they've kind of almost adapted the bad macro flipbird style of play, where if the game's not going well, they still know that they can just death ball, maybe catch a pick, and then flip. Like they have a formula for themselves, and it's really fun to watch. But yeah, Team Shiny taking them down and then going back into the grand finals. Oh, dude, what a story.
Yeah. I think TTV are just such a cohesive unit. I think they're just, when it comes to teamwork, they have it down more than anybody in this game. And I think they were out to prove a point after G4 to show that they are still the best. And I think they played like it. They played like they are the best, and it was a spectacle to watch. It was incredible.
Yeah, I agree. They played so good. I think they had they always have something to prove, because when you're the best, all you can do is lose, essentially. Mm-hmm. Like, if you win, it's like, well, yeah, they're the best. But if you lose, like, oh my gosh, they lost. So they're in that weird place where, thank God nobody expects me to win all the time. When I win, people are like, hey, Spragels won a game. But yeah, they're in that weird spot. I also agree about Aphelion. Aphelion was killer. Yeah, they did so well against Team Shiny. I love the way they play. Red Love, for my money, he might be the best Venusaur out there when he gets going. I mean, he is absolutely incredible. And I was hoping to see them possibly in the finals. It was either going to be them or Team Shiny, right? Those were the last two that were fighting out of in the losers finals. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, losers finals.
And then something else interesting that happened in that tournament, I think that's the last tournament we're going to see this current roster of Bad Macro Flipbird, or even just the team name in general, right? Because they're in different regions, so they're kind of splitting up so that they can get ready for Worlds, which is a team that I've always really, really liked, Bad Macro. So that's kind of the last time we're going to see them, I think.
Yeah, as far as I've heard, Chris and Bruv are going to be splitting off because they're the two European players. And you know, the irony of that is that, like, I guess you can assume that that's how it's going to work. Like, we know we're going to have regional qualifiers and like a regional league, maybe. Like, we don't really know exactly how it's going to work. But I think it's probably best for them to assume a position in EU. And realistically, the sooner the better, right? Like, it's great to be a dominant team or to be a really good team now, but you have to prepare for Worlds. And honestly, August is just not that far away. It's really not that far away. We still don't have any official news about things, so it's probably going to come out and it's going to happen fast. So, like Lush, for example, and Sulu splitting off to start focusing on Australia. And I think, like, from what I've seen and the games and stuff. Yeah, dude. From what I've seen, like, performing really well in Australia and just being prepared, even if they don't know anything yet. So yeah, Bad Macro Flipbird, man, what a great team. I love watching them. I've known Chris for a while. Like I said, I've known him since back in the Infinite Crisis days. So I've known of him. I like to watch him. I like to follow him. And Bruv's an amazing tank player. But we'll have to just see what happens for them. You know, what roster they can form out of European players, at least on that side of things, to see how they operate. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you boys wanted to talk about tournament-wise before we kind of move on to maybe some of our last topics of the show?
Not particularly myself.
I just think tournament-wise, like, the thing about this game is that, like, as much as I could harp about matchmaking or things that I don't care for and like little systems or rewards that I want, at the end of the day, it's a 5v5 game. And when if you want to see some phenomenal Unite play, I mean, you see things that you just didn't know were capable of being done on what is such a seemingly simple game, right? And man, if you're not paying attention to the tournament scene, I challenge you to watch at least a few games of a tournament sometime. There's so much heart in it. There's so much passion. There's hard work. There's from the production people, all the different casters, myself included, Spraggles. Big again. I don't know if we said this, but huge shout out to Adrive for kind of last minute inviting us to this broadcast. That was so kind of him, and I love doing it. Nice. I love it. So yeah, I challenge you to invest yourself a little bit on the spectator side of Unite, because Unite's a great game to be a part of as a player, but I honestly think that it might even be a better game to be a part of just as a community member and a fan of. So I definitely want to send that challenge out there.
As someone who mainly plays solo queue, I can tell you it's much better to watch sometimes than to participate at certain points.
Sometimes.
We didn't even I forgot to mention, we saw Garchomp from Rin in the finals. We saw that amazing Machamp from, I'm blanking on the team name.
Tsareena.
Yeah. They were just so good. I love seeing those picks. We saw some Mammo Swines in there. It was just a great tournament. And yeah, big shout outs to A-Drive, not only for supporting the community in such a big way, but more importantly, letting me be a part of the broadcast. That's the most important thing that happened there. I don't think we mentioned this earlier, and I hope we didn't, because I do like to give people a fair warning. This is going to be a little spoiler talk about the next Pokemon coming to the game. It has not been officially announced. You've probably seen it everywhere if you're following this game at all, but spoilers, we're about to talk about the next Pokemon coming, at least for a little bit here. That's the warning about the spoiler. If you're still watching, we're going to talk about Aegislash coming to the game. The next all-rounder. I mean, we needed more all-rounders, apparently.
Yeah.
No speedsters, no
Defender
supports.
coming up next, guys.
Yeah, Defender. We need some more Defenders and all-rounders. And, I mean, honestly, it looks sick. And also, given that they released Trevenant, and Trevenant is okay, not one of the most powerful releases, and definitely not one of the most popular releases. I think this Pokemon is shaping up to be insanely cool. I think it just looks so good.
Yeah. I think Aegislash, to me personally, looks like a Pokemon that's going to really reward high skill players. It looks like something that you really have to time your abilities on, and you have to worry about this passive with its boosted attacks. I'm not completely sure how that works myself, but it looks like it's got this good balance between defense and offense, and using those at the right time is going to be really, really key to making this Pokemon work, I think. I think the Unite, I hope it does a lot, because it's very narrow. I'm sure you guys see it's so tiny, and so I'm hoping it has some kind of crazy secondary effect or does like absurd amounts of damage or something like that. But yeah, you made a video about it, Crashy. What's your take on Aegislash?
Aegislash looks really cool to me. I think that it seemingly seems very simple. Like, you kind of look at it and it's just like, it almost looks one-dimensional, but we're looking at leaks and, unreleased footage. And so I'm sure there's nuance in there that I'm just not quite seeing, right? Like, when you use an offensive ability, it puts you in sword stance. When you use a defensive ability, it puts you in shield stance. What exactly does that do? Is it as simple as we think, or is there much more nuance to it? Now, from what I could gather, normal attacks never have boosteds, but you build your boosteds by using your main ability. So you have the claw move where you kind of swipe, and you have that like more angular dash, like kind of area slash move. And those two moves, depending on whether you hit, will give you a boosted auto. Now, here's the big question. When you hit multiple targets, will it give you multiple charges? These boosted autos, or these autos, it goes up to 4. You can see it. It's like the 3 white ticks, and then the 4th one is yellow, so it caps off at 4. So you can store up to 4 of them. They're stored. It's a lot like Blissey's, where they become stored. I don't think they fall off from what I could see. So, and they act a lot. It's very, very similar in my mind to Greninja's boosted melee. So when you hit something, you like sword slash through them. So, when you look at the kit in an isolated dummy fighting situation, it looks really simple. But in my mind, I see you slamming a team, getting 4 charges, dash through, shield up, dash through. Like, I in my mind, it sounds way faster, way more loose, throw a Unite move on top of it than what you can even tell. And we don't know the nuance between the abilities. Does being in sword stance raise your damage by what? We don't understand it. And I think that the character I think there's going to be some skill expression here that is going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, that's one of the when I watch this character, I think players who are very good at this game are going to pop off in a crazy way with this character. One of its issues might be that it's got 3 stages to it. So any Pokemon that has 3 stages, you automatically think, all right, well, now it needs to go in the jungle. Possibly, at least, it needs to go in the jungle, and now you're taking experience away from a Pokemon like Cinderace, who is just one of the craziest Pokemon in the game right now, or Greninja or something like that. So it's always a bit of a gamble to have a 3 Evo Pokemon, kind of like, as we talked about earlier, Dragonite. It's just... it's so whatever in the lane for such a long time that you wonder what it's going to do to Aegislash being a 3-stage Pokemon like that. However, when I'm watching it fight, I'm just thinking, man, this thing is going to tear teams apart. We don't know all the numbers. Like, that's something we just can't tell until you really start playing it. You get the feel of it, but it feels like this could wipe entire enemy teams.
Yeah, it definitely looks scary. It looks interesting. And yeah, I can't wait to see how it's going to be used. I mean, it appears with King's Shield that you can completely block a move, and that's something I'm gonna love to see how the top end players use that, where they plan to. And I think this could be a top laner, depending on how much damage it does. But with that defensive move it has in the early game, I think Iron Defense it's called, right? I think that's what it is. I think you could really use that and outplay Lucario. It's going to depend on its late game impact, of course, but I definitely am excited to see Aegislash. I mean, it's a fan favorite Pokemon, right? I mean, I think everyone likes Aegislash.
Yeah, for me,
Yeah,
I definitely I feel it like so. I obviously like for all rounder, I kind of think of the viability between lane and jungle, and like having the first move where you kind of like dash and teleport looks good for lane, right? Gives it some mobility, and having a defensive ability looks good for lane. So I think about it and I'm like, it could probably be a good jungler. Like anything could be a good jungler. But it's probably going to be a laner, assuming that it actually plays out well. So I'm really looking forward to another laner because God knows we have plenty of junglers in the game. So
it's 5 and 7, right? The evolutions, 5 and 7?
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah, it's on the 5-7-9 curve.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, we just had them release a Pokemon that wasn't crazy overpowered. We might see them release another Pokemon that's not crazy overpowered. Then again, they went from Mamoswine to Sylveon. At one point, I remember them releasing a Pokemon that wasn't crazy overpowered, and then they released Sylveon. So, yeah, guys, I think we did it. I think that's a lot of great stuff for our first episode here.
Yes.
I thought a fun way for us to maybe cap this, we did this on our Lost episode, was just give people a build that you're really enjoying right now that maybe isn't something that they're seeing a ton of. I said this last time, I'll say it again. I feel like I'm talking about this build a lot, but I really like playing a stacking Blissey right now. You've got your special attack specs, your score shield, your buddy barrier. You're in that bottom lane, and you're healing for just insane amounts of damage. If you find one, look, I'm a solo queue boy. If you find one player on your team who's super solid, you just follow them around all game. You keep them alive no matter what. You're in pretty good shape. So that's kind of like my fun little build that I want to leave you with. What about you, Lush?
I think my favorite thing at the moment is definitely that I think is a little slept on is Slow Smoke Mamoswine. You can't escape this Pokemon. You can't get away from Slow Smoke Mamoswine. It's going to just beat you down, and you're probably going to break your controller. But it's definitely something really fun, and I suggest you try it out if you haven't.
Crash.
That's infuriating. I don't know. Listen, I think that like. With all these crazy changes happening this last patch, it's easy to get excited about some of the big ticket winners. But I'm telling you, man, try out this Talonflame build. I wouldn't have said this in the last episode, obviously, because we didn't have this patch, and I really wouldn't expect to say anything about Talonflame because I really don't care for the Pokemon that much. But this build has been fun. I am putting up crazy fights. Just to elaborate on it, I've been running Razor Claw, Focus Band, Buddy Barrier. You're defensive. You have healing. You have you can run the slow smoke on it, so when you dive in, you're just in the team fight, and you really commit to the fight, which is a very different style of play with Talon. You kind of would dive in and dash out, right? You know, land in, dash out, and that's just not how I'm playing it. I'm in, and I'm sticking around, and it's been a lot of fun to fight with. I just think it's surprising, and like there's always that like when people don't know how to play against something because it hasn't been played a ton, you kind of catch them off guard too. So it's got that element of surprise, and it's just been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank you for listening to the first episode of You're on Fire, a Pokemon Unite podcast. For myself, Crashy, Lush, I love you, and goodbye. Mwah.